Director told me on the ear to point out once more this wonderful lounge. When you look over here, it was provided to us by Garage and Trash Design, and they show how to upcycle old materials into something new and modern and nice. So please also use your lunch break to have a sit there and just enjoy our little lounge corner that we provided here. We've already heard how important cities, especially cities, are for the environment and the environmental transformations. And I'm very happy now to discuss now the building of green cities with two personas who are very much into this. They're at the heartbeat of developing green cities, and they're both from Vienna. So please excuse if I change into German now. Also jetzt geht's wieder hoch in die Dolmetschkabinen.
So here we are in the interpretation booth, so everybody with a headset can get a good interpretation into English. Just very briefly as an information for you. More than half of the world's population lives in cities, and there is a forecast that until 2050, almost 70% of world's population will be living in cities. And this afternoon there are going to be very interesting personalities who will join us, very young entrepreneurs as well, who will talk about what initiatives they pursue in order to find the right acupuncture points. They come from Chicago, they come from California, Nigeria, India, etc., etc. So in the afternoon, that is a must. And we've heard it several times today what it is need in order to implement transformation. It needs, first of all, good technology. Secondly, political basis. Thirdly, money. I'll say that openly. And the population, of course, it has to be on board. And my two panelists know exactly what this is about. And I'd like to welcome one of the supporters of the first half of the Austrian World Summit, the CEO of Hallmann Group, Clemens Hallmann. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Hallmann.
Ich gebe dir jetzt noch so ein bisschen Momentum, dich auf die Bühne einzugewöhnen.
Going to give you a bit of time to acclimatize to the stage. I'll just present you briefly. You are entrepreneur and investor of the Hallmann Corporate Group. That includes über AG. There is a beautiful info point outside. And what's interesting for me is that you were one of the first in the building industry who said, we are not going to use fossil energies in our industry. Why was that so important? That's true. My good friend Arnold Schwarzenegger many years ago pointed out to me how important it is to protect the environment. And that it is our duty to preserve our environment in order to pass it on to the next generation as a livable place. And therefore, it was my plan to build sustainable buildings that not only good for the environment, but also allow for good financeability. You must not forget that about 40% of CO2 emissions come from building industry. In Vienna, we have gas heatings. 90% of the CO2 emissions in the city are created by these heating systems, and this is something we really need to change. In our company in 2019 already, we built a beautiful building for which in 2021 we were the first company who received a certificate for it. And we moved on until this year we reached the Plus Energy Quarter. The authority certificate, due to the different technologies, took longer than expected, but now we can finally implement it. We're going to go even further by building more plus energy developments in Wiener Neustadt, close to Vienna, with a musical educational campus. And you see how many different technologies we have on board, like PV, geothermal energy, e-mobility, especially in urban countries, in urban areas, it's important to make sure that the radiation is decreased, and therefore we want to make sure that we break up the concrete, unseal everything. And we have many other technologies. We always receive the most important awards that you can receive in this industry. But that doesn't mean that we rest on our laurels. No, we're very ambitious and working towards the future. And we want to make sure that our colleagues implement many energy-efficient buildings in the future. It always thrills me how much ahead of your time you are with your projects. But you have mentioned a few things. So I can save energy as soon as I live in such a building, as soon as I have an apartment. But you mentioned a few issues, how you make sure that you respect or how you make sure that the use of resources is minimal. So there are many from the industry, so tell us a little more. Sustainability has always been a very far-reaching topic, and we made sure to find out how we can save energy already during the construction phase, how we can use green electricity in order to reduce CO2 emissions or to even be CO2 neutral. Therefore, on a construction site in Simmering, we had a mobile hydrogen generator in order to make sure that the construction site can be CO2 neutral by providing it with green electricity. In April, we went even a step further, and we had on a crane 16 wind turbines, which allows us for partly autonomous energy provision. The next step is 72 wind turbines, which will be assembled on a construction crane to make sure that the construction site will receive only green energy. In the future, all of our construction sites will be using wind energy and hydrogen energy. And at this point, I'd like to thank my team for their innovative thrust and their activity that they show every day. So thank you very much.
Klär mich auf. Ich kenne mich null aus.
Well, inform me. Wind turbines on cranes, is that something that you have invented, or did you have a role model that would everybody sit around the table and say, well, would that be something? How do you do that? Well, of course, we have a brainstorming. We see what there is in the world, what are the new things, and we try to be as innovative as possible and to dare do something. So congratulations. I am thrilled. I'm enthusiastic. You hear all that, and your jaw drops, and you say, wow, and how much that might cost. So how is it? If I want to live in such a great building, if I want to have my office there, not everybody can afford sustainable living. So how do you link that with social affordability? Well, social affordability in combination with sustainability has always been one of our focal points in our activities, because we want to make sure that it's not just those who earn more money that they can preserve the costs of nature. Therefore, we are willing to accept higher building costs, which we do not transfer to our future tenants. But this is our contribution to make living more environmental sensitive. You can, for instance, see here that by using zero fossil energy, we can reduce 70% of operational costs, being 100% CO2 neutral. Operational costs has always been a necessary evil in the past that had to be accepted. But now in times of prices skyrocketing and energy prices skyrocketing, they became one crucial issue. And I can calculate, if you live in a building from the 70s, at present you'll have operational costs and energy costs of 4 to 5 euros per month and square meter. When we say that we can save up to 70% by using environmental friendly energy, we're talking to 2.5 to 3 euros per square meters. On average, a Viennese apartment is 70 square meters. We are talking about 2,000 euros a year, and that is a significant reduction in costs. But that again means, in the end, that sustainable buildings do not only preserve the environment, but also the spendings of our tenants, of those people who live in our buildings. In order to make sure that this task can be further implemented, politics and authorities will have to come to the fore in order to make sure that implementation can take place quickly and efficiently.
Einen Zwischenapplaus, sowas. Gut.
What you say always deserves a round of applause. I am, again, very proud today that we are able to send a strong signal from Vienna into the world to make sure that our environment is better in the future, because we have the power to change our future.
Danke, Clemens Hallmann.
Thank you very much, Clemens Hallmann. Thank you for your investment. Thank you for your environmentally friendly activities. And Clemens Hallmann made it easy for me to welcome my next guest, please. Welcome Climate Protection Chancellor of the City of Vienna, Jürgen Czernohorski.
Lieber Herr Stadtrat,
Dear City Councillor, the problems in Europe's cities are quite similar. How do you make sure that you have proper heating? How can you build in a climate-neutral way? How can you use PV? How can you change this and that? But now with this concrete example of Clemens Hallmann, his activities, I believe that in Vienna at present there is 1.9 million inhabitants. No, it's 2 already. Since last month, there are 2 million people living in Vienna. But we have 600,000 gas
Treibhausgase im Gebäudebereich.
Heating systems in Vienna, and Vienna wants to be climate neutral until 2040. How do you do that? How do you proceed?
It's so great to be here again, to meet you all, to work together side by side on a zero-neutral, carbon-neutral society, and a circular society and a better future. This panel is in German, so I switch now. Die Frage war, wie können wir unsere Gebäude, wie können wir diese
So the question was how the 600,000 gas heating systems that we've heard about can be replaced by sustainable heating systems. And I believe that's important because it is an example that climate protection, climate action, climate politics always has to do with a high level of living quality. And that has to do with your home, because if you live in a 70 square meter apartment that has no insulation, no balcony, if you sweat there in the summer and in winter, you are dependent of Russian gas, live in cold rooms. And if we manage to do the turnaround, that's our target till 2040. 100% exit from fossil gas and oil. And the basics for this are easily explained. On the one hand, we are going to focus on thermal insulation in order to consume less energy for heating and cooling. It is less expensive on the one hand, and it makes living space cooler. And the energy consumption has increased by 70% per capita in the last few years. But there's the big topic of energy, and basically it's about having district heating expanded to 60% of all the apartments. That again would be CO2 neutral due to geothermal systems and the large heat pumps that we are building right now. And on the other hand, there is a heat pump technology for individual buildings or close neighboring district heatings, so that the Viennese know what's going to happen. We are going to present a heat planning map. I live in an area where there will be district heating. In the next 17 years, my building will be connected to district heating. Or I live in an area where you'll need different solutions we've heard about already, and there are more and more every month. The next question. Till 2014, we only have 17 years. Is 17 years enough time to implement all that? I can't get dressed within an hour. You know what I mean? Well, that's one of the central questions, I believe. How climate politics, climate action can be shaped, how it can be thought. Is it doable? It is technically doable. Why shouldn't it be possible? It is possible. John F. Kennedy in 1961 said, it shows we go to the moon and we win a decade. He didn't organize a workroom, said, how can you do that? How can that be done? What are the problems? That it was a clear political decision with a lot of public investments that had been done. And that's a decision to leave gas behind. We know that 17 years is truly ambitious, but only through political valor on the one hand side and activity this is possible. In Vienna, don't know if everybody knows that, we celebrate 150 years of Viennese alpine water.
Wissen Sie, wie lange es gebraucht
Do you know how long it
hat,
took to establish this network? And it is a distance of 150 kilometers from the Rax-Schneeberg to Vienna, 4 years. And I think that's a very good example that if you make a joint effort, and in climate protection, climate action, it's all about, or a lot about public infrastructure, then it is possible. I believe you. There is not a shred of doubt. But very briefly, in my own interest, before you talked, and I'm not sure if that's what you said, climate plan, so that people can see what is going to be their future. How can you look up right now online what I can do, what I'm facing in the future? Is there a platform? That, of course, is a central question. It's important if there is political valor, but that alone is not going to be enough, because people in our city, in our cities, need to have an idea of what that means for them, personally. In my mind, there are a few approaches. One of them is not be too pedagogical and to show them how it's done, but to reach out to them. There are modern ways of empowerment, of participatory democracy. Second thing is to make sure that measures that we take have social impact as well. Climate protection on the one hand and social improvement, they need to go together. They go together. Social improvement cannot exist without sustainability. On the other hand, you cannot make climate protection measures which do not improve quality of life for people. And thirdly, you have to know what you're at and how they can feel, how they can work. And there are different departments in the city that understand themselves as change agents, like the Information Center, the Center for Renewable Energies, that accompany you from subsidies to legal framework, etc., etc. All that the information is provided to you. In the next 2.5 years, we want to make sure that everybody understands how that can work in a building from the 19th century, 20th century, in the 70s building, etc., in social housing. There will be 100 buildings that serve as role models where gas no longer exists, where heat pumps have been installed, but which remain affordable for the inhabitants. In 17 years, we'll have that all over Vienna. And if somebody has been the trailblazer, the other ones will follow suit. So thank you very much, Mr. Czernohorski, for the contribution, for the time, for enthusiasm, and all the best for the next 17 years. Thank you very much. And a good World Forum for all of you.
Wie Sie wollen.
You can leave here or that. Now,
thank you, Sylvia. Sylvia, I got to say, you have been absolutely spectacular today. It's been an honor to share the stage with you. So how about a round of applause for Sylvia Schneider?
Thank you so much. Come on, I need to say the same now. So, because everyone loved you and people were coming up to me and said, how great is he? So it was my honor to be on stage with you. You will host the whole afternoon too. Please give him a very warm applause, Matt Eisenman.
Thank you very much. Sylvia, I have a question, though. Did you do anything fun last Saturday night?
Yeah, I actually, yes, of course. Of course, no. Yeah, I watched the Eurovision Song Contest.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, and I loved it.
Well, you saw then the band who's going to be playing this afternoon. They were the winners of the 2022 Eurovision Song Contest. They're going to be here for a couple of songs. It's Kalush Orchestra. Let's take a look. Is that awesome?
It's awesome. And they opened this year's Eurovision Song Contest at the beginning, and they will be on stage today. That's amazing.
It's going to be amazing. We also have some incredible climate action leaders who will be up here sharing their climate journeys. And we're also going to have networking islands, where you'll have a chance to connect with many of the speakers you see on stage to collaborate, brainstorm, and hopefully come up with solutions for the future. Now, it's time for lunch. So grab some food, recharge your batteries, and at 2 p.m. sharp, we'll be back.
Mahlzeit.